You're listening to Two Guys Talking Wine with Michael Pinkus and André Prue.
Michael.
Andre, how are you?
I'm very well. It's been a very long week. For anyone following me on social media at André Wine Review, I got to spend a week at McMaster Children's Hospital with little Spencer dealing with an unknown infection, but she's come to the other side. I'm very tired as we connect to record this.
Seems like your little girl wanted some extra attention.
And I got to tell you, the wine list at the hospital was pretty bad.
I don't know how many people go to a hospital for wine. Like it's not one of the top places on the list.
No, 100%.
Hey, let's head over to the hospital cafeteria and have a glass of wine.
You know what though? After the week that I had, actually, I'm going to tip my hat to you again. I know I was very complimentary to you last episode with, people who've listened to the podcast a long time knows there's sometimes a little bit of tension and playful banter between Michael and I. But while I was busy being in the hospital, you were busy writing and scripting, and we've got some really cool stuff to go through today.
Yeah. I'm always looking for ways to bring Tuscany to you. I go to the Anteprima every year. I get a chance to taste some great wines, and I just never get a chance. I think I never bring Tuscany to you. I talk to you from Tuscany, and we talk about Tuscan wines. And I thought this year maybe I'm going to bring you something a little more interesting. And so first of all, I do have to say I should say what we're going to talk about today is Tenuta Sette Ponti. I've got two great wines from their portfolio. We'll talk about those, as we go through the podcast. But I really want to do a quick thank you off the top here to Noble Estates for facilitating getting these wines into the country. If you are looking to get us wines and you're not in Ontario, you have to go through an agent. No, I'm going to save that for when we talk Bordeaux. I was going to give a big FU to the LCBO, who does not make it easy. But when it comes to Bordeaux, it's even more difficult. But a big thank you to Noble Estates, who helped facilitate getting these wines in.
Yeah.
Any of these wines are from Tuscany.
Yes.
And you're going to hear a little bit about Sette Ponti right now. So I'm going to let our guest introduce himself.
Good morning. I'm Alberto Moretti Cuseri, really born in Florence, but here we are in Tenuta Sette Ponti. The winery born in the early 50s, thanks to our grandfather Alberto, by the way, like me, even if I'm the third generation, and he fell in love for this beautiful place around that time, and he bought this property on this center part, from the two sisters of the royal family. That the royal family was coming from Piedmont to Tuscany, and so he could get this beautiful piece in the center where he could have some vine, some bush for hunting, and some very good olive oil tree. So I really fell in love for these three opportunity. But it was nice because at that time my grandfather made just a classic Chianti, no more in the process of the love of wine. Everything after change, thanks to our father, that in the late 80s start all the process to make like great wine. And how? Starting from Sangiovese in Tuscany. Where? From the Vigna dell'Impero. Vigna dell'Impero because it was this 3-hectare vine that was planted from the royal family when they won a war in Abyssinia. From this Vigna dell'Impero, we get the clone and we replant the new vine with the same clone, and from there, today, we drink Crognolo. Mm-hmm. And this is let's say, our really number one Sangiovese for us. So came from a very well vine adapted in this kind of soil. So now today we speak a lot about vigna, single vigna, and where we start this process from that time. Then another big challenge in Tenuta Sette Ponti. Which one? The idea to create an international variety wine. So studying where better to have the Merlot, where it will be better to plant Cabernet Sauvignon. After years, 1999, we had finally the first vintage of Oreno. And from, let's say, 2001, that Oreno appeared like number 10 of the best 100 wine of Wine Spectator, at least we say, okay, so probably this challenge in the international variety is not so bad.
Now, the funny thing is, like, I've been unashamed to admit that Italy is a weak point in my knowledge. And I mean, one of the reasons are it's a bit of a drag to fully understand the front label unless you really understand it. I actually know these wines that you've brought, and I'm very, very excited to like learn about them with you because Tuscany is a region that I've gravitated to a little bit because of this podcast. But, you know, I feel about Tuscany the way I feel about Burgundy. I didn't really understand Burgundy until I was there. And it's just, I have a hard time learning from a book. I have a hard time learning from being talked to. So I feel like I'm starting to get things a bit. But, you know, when I saw that we were tasting Oreno today, I got very excited.
So Oreno we're going to do just a little bit later, not too much, but this is Crognolo, and Crognolo is like the original flagship wine for this winery. This is the one that Daddy produced, and here's the interesting part about this wine is that we didn't just get the current vintage. It's a 2017, which this is. The wines that we're going to taste are actually are also a 16 Oreno, which I think is pretty interesting, and that probably gets us into talking about vintages.
Yep.
And Alberto gets into that.
It's 18, 19, probably 18, 19, even 20. I will say maybe a little bit less of the 17 in Tuscany, because it was more a little bit complicated. But sometimes, it's also interesting to try. A vintage wine was a season that was complicated, because you can see also how we have to react sometimes for what we cannot decide. That depends not from us, but from how comes the weather, the conditions. So there is also super challenge for us, like a producer, and even for the wine lover when you're going to try and see like some difference. Because every vintage something always change, no matter what, even in condition. And I give you another example. When I was talking with our team in the wine and say, but 15 and 16 both were fantastic. But one guy told me, yes, but when we make the harvest in the 16, every day we can work in a very calm and quiet day. So this means that even for the people that have to do the harvest, it was zero stress. So sometimes even that can be a contribution to make things at the top of the level. 19 lovely, 21 lovely, because we can wait. I mean, are still 19, 20 and 21, three of them, especially for us, I think that we can wait, keep in cellar and drink in the longer time.
And of course, then I had to ask him going forward, what about 23 and 24?
Wow, 23 super interesting, and even 24, because it was two vintages that we have in Tuscany, a lot of water. So like it's 10 years that everybody's crying, he goes, oh my God, the world is changed, climate change, everything will be so hot, what we are going to do? And then after this, now we have 23, 24, super raining in spring, even too much in the 22, some east creates some problems, many of us, we have a reduction in production for the too much water, and then east, especially for people make bio and organic. Mm-hmm. So in terms of this, it will be lovely to see how will be this on our palate, because it's much more like two raining season that we're supposed to don't have since like 10 years.
Okay, so my question for you, having been to the Anteprima many times, and especially since our guest is not here with me right now, is what makes an exceptional vintage in Tuscany? Because, I talked about my trip to Burgundy. You want it not too hot, right? And I do think it's one of the things, especially for the Ontario lovers who listen to this podcast, is, I don't think we could have a summer that's too hot. And, now that I've really got an understanding of great wine, and you know, you and I have been doing this for a long time, is you don't necessarily want things to just be baked in the sun to make really great wine.
So a great vintage in Tuscany is the same thing as a great vintage here, right?
Okay.
You don't want spring to be too early, but you want that rain to come early in the spring. You want a nice, July and August to be hot, but they're getting into the 40s, right? So the vines are going to start shutting down. They, Sangiovese, I think, is a little bit more, can take it a little bit more, but you want those temperatures to be 20, 30, not too much higher than that. And then, of course, you want a nice, a little bit of rain here and there. A great vintage is a great vintage, I think, all over. Like, I don't think, but it's just imagine where you are. Like, here we're looking for heat. They're not looking for those really, really hot. Where we would go, man, we would love a few days in the, high 20s, right? Just to get that. And it's interesting because, he touched on climate change there, and everybody's talking about climate change. And there's a debate, having been to Tuscany and having been to Bordeaux, everybody's saying, are the vines adapting? Is man adapting? Is there a mixture of both? Alberto in this clip gives us a specific example to frame that subject. You're also going to hear our good friend Christer Bicklum in this as well, as he follows up one of my questions with one of his own, and then Alberto gets into the subject again.
I think that men and people, obviously, that work on this try to help the vine as much as possible on this process. Give you an example. We make the vine sleeping 1 month more than what was before. So we try to keep relaxing them and stay on the winter time until before we start to pruning at the end of February. Now we start to pruning end of March. So we gave 1 month more to sleeping, taking relax, because after probably sometimes summer is warmer, so they have to work stronger to be more resistant. So if they have they slept well, they can go running after better, like if it's an athletic, no? Yeah. System. So it's true.
Pruning is a sort of encouragement.
Because when you prune, obviously the vegetation of your vine starts, no? So we keep them waiting, and then we make them having more relaxing time in winter. Little longer instead of before they anticipate. Perhaps I remember from the time of our grandfather, maybe it was starting around end of February. Today we start end of March, more or less, 1 month more.
So I love what he said there about pruning and how important it was. What we didn't talk about, though, is we didn't talk about the Crognolo. You got me off on your little, what's a perfect vintage. What do you think of this Crognolo? Think about it. It's 8 years old.
I don't know if I've ever tasted Sangiovese this old, but this to me is the sweet spot. I don't know, Michael. It's like my birthday came earlier when we did the Danny Roland podcast. You brought me a 2010 Chateau Fontenille, which was in the sweet spot of where I'd want to drink it. This Crognolo is exactly where I love to drink my wines. The tannin is present, but a little softer. It's starting to build up on my lower lip on the inside. But the flavor is we're smoking ribs this afternoon. You and I have got together on a Sunday afternoon to record this podcast, and for me, this is a perfect barbecue wine. It's got that really nice tomato stem that I love from Sangiovese, but it's just everything is kind of mellowed. And all the flavors in this wine are more like a Monet painting, where it's all just a little cloudy, and it just plays really nice with a little bit of kind of cherry mingling in there from the tiny bit of Merlot in this. It's just a lovely wine.
What I really love about Sangiovese is that acidity, and you can really see why Italian wine, Tuscan wines especially, Tuscany is where Chianti is, Sangiovese. You can see why food plays such a big part in Tuscan culture. It's because of that great Sangiovese acidity that just drives this wine completely. And as he said, 17 is not the greatest of years. This is as usual, 90 Sangiovese, 10%
That's
Merlot.
interesting because like the flavors are so intense on this. Like I was thinking in my head, this must have been a hot summer, but you're telling me it's not a great year.
No, he said it was a tougher vintage. When you listen to the Italians talk, it's fun to listen to them when they say difficult vintage or tough or something like that. It means that it was usually rainy. It wasn't a great vintage, but they have this way of making it sound like it was still okay, but they had their difficulties.
Okay, but he didn't use the magic word where it was just like it was a challenging vintage.
Challenging
right?
is always difficult. Is just north of challenging. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to pour you some Moreno, which is the flagship wine of Sette Ponti. But what we're going to do is we're going to break some news right here, as Alberto told me about some of the wines that they have planned for the future that are pretty exciting.
I would say Crognolo, I love the 21, perhaps a lot in this vintage if you ask me, obviously. And I really love 22 for Oreno. I have to tell you something, that in 22 Oreno, we gave, after 12 years that nothing was changed, for the first time in Oreno 22 we had 10% of Cabernet Franc. 10% of Cabernet Franc from the vine that have 7 years already, make it the 7 years, so in the 8 years. So freshness gave to this vintage on the 22, this part more freshness, more like velvet, make me like super excited in this vintage of like the last 6-7 years. Yes.
So obviously you and I know about Cabernet Franc and what it does to a wine. This is old school Oreno. This is 16, which they were lovely enough to send to us. So you're not getting the Cabernet Franc freshness that he's talking about here, but you are getting still that freshness. And this is a wine from Bulgari. So this is a pretty exciting wine if you think about it. Now 9 years old.
It's starting to show its age a little earlier than I think I would have expected, but I'm guessing this is hot vintage again.
16 is a hot vintage, yes.
So I'm seeing the assemblage is 50% Merlot, 40% Cab Sauv, and 10% Petit Verdot.
Yeah.
And
Verdot is pretty interesting to be in there.
Yeah, and the Verdot is really bringing like a lot of blue fruit to this. If I had to guess, I don't think I've tasted those varieties on their own from Bulgari to be able to anticipate what they do with the assemblage. But like we're getting firmly into secondary, and some tertiary notes are starting to poke their head into the room, but it's still got a lot of fresh fruit.
Yeah, I really like Oreno. I think it's a wonderful wine. And now I wanted to find out what was so special about this particular, because it's Bulgari, right? There's a lot of great wines being made in Bulgari, and Alberto is super proud of this piece of land, and he's going to tell you why.
Bulgari is amazing. It's amazing, yes, because it's like this part. Even there of soil, different kind of soil, obviously beautiful clay. There is this very red soil, rich of iron, that helps a lot. The climate condition from the sea, the microclimate that create, it's incredible. But at the same time, is warmer if we compare to here. And we are located in a lovely position because we are on top of Via Bulgarese. Via Bulgarese cross the Bulgari road with the cypress. So stay on top. It means that you are going a little bit more upper, where also at our shoulder we have some bush, some trees, so more freshness, and some breeze from the sea. Like the level is almost at 100 meters, is much more helpful. Power, richness, and let's say lovely fruit all together comes, and especially in the international variety makes an explosion in the last 50 years. Obviously thanks to Sassicaia, that was the first one create a really proper strong of a brand.
I love the way that guy talks, just talking about the wines and the brands, and Bulgari is a region that I have had a chance to dip my toe in the pond. And I don't know if you're going to be touching on this as we roll through the script here, but like this is the flagship
Yeah.
of this winery, and the wine comes to the LCBO still for like $100. And you know, we talk about value a lot, and you know, the needle has moved a lot on the podcast, especially over the last couple of years. But for me, like this is like that perfect wine where if you're looking for a gift to impress someone, or like that perfect wine where like you're really just like looking to show off a little bit without necessarily needing to break the bank for the sake of breaking the bank.
Yeah, Reno is just a really nice wine, and I was actually at the property, and they actually sit in a very interesting spot in Bulgaria. They're between two of the big houses there. Like the really and how they found that plot of land is pretty impressive. Now during the Anteprima, we were at where I actually bumped into Alberto was called Valdarno Day. It's a special place within Tuscany, and we're going to get into that because what we're going to do is we're going to be talking to Selva Piana, we're going to be talking to Gondi, we're going to be talking to Colognose, and then I'm going to introduce you to Valdarno di Sopra. But what Sette Ponti makes there is called Vigna del Imperio, which is their old vines project. Like these are super old vines, you know, craggly old things. When you think of, you know, naughty vines and stuff like that from California, this is what you're looking at. And so Alberto starts talking about what makes Valdarno so important.
I think that first of all probably is really a point of position, no? Because if we think that there is like 3, 4, 5 producers in this area, at least 3 that already get so much score points in the world, making great wine. So probably we are a good producer, but at the same time, the soil have to give you something to make this big difference, especially in this such a small piece of land, no? At the end. If we see like Oreno for us, Galatrona for Galatrona, Camerlot for Camerlot. I mean, if we talk Il Borro, so like for producer that is doing so well in a such not big area.
There's quite a bit of grape varieties legal to use. Cabernet, Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet, which most people probably never heard of. Syrah, Sangiovese, of course. But you also have some local varieties, I think.
I like Trebbiano. Even Trebbiano is doing so well in this area. It was historical because, like, for us, we had some Trebbiano from the vine that was planted in 1935. Even I think in Galatrona was super historical again. Even I don't know if also here in some other area of the Boro, I think for sure yes. So position, climate condition, weather, but soil a lot. But even I give an example that is lovely. Here we harvest 2 weeks after the Merlot. If we compare to another beautiful property that is called Orma, is close to the sea in Bulgaria. So sometimes it's not just the soil, but it's a combination between the soil, the position, the climate condition. So same theme for us. We harvest our Merlot for Oreno, for Sette, usually around half of September. In Bulgaria, we harvest in end of August. So what does it mean? Probably here make a Merlot that is super elegant because more fresh. If we compare to another climate condition that is 100 kilometers from here. We have at the moment just really we have Vigna dell'Impero. That it was the antique vine vineyard on the Sangiovese, and also we have the old vineyard in Trebbiano. We are looking to get, and then we have Sette. Sette is this very small production that we make in 100% of Merlot that will be inside of the vineyard from the next year. So you're almost taking like work in progress.
Having been to that property, Sette is it's an absolutely lovely wine. They just started making this 100% Merlot, and it's so good. But what we were really interested in, because we're there in February, and it's already 15 degrees or something, so it's absolutely beautiful. But as you and I both know, white wines are starting to take over. Consumers are drinking more white wine. We talked about Bordeaux trying to jump on the bandwagon of making more white wines. And when you think of Italy, I know Alberto talked a little bit about Trebbiano, which is a white wine.
So when's the Pinot Grigio coming out?
So no, thankfully he's not talking about Pinot Grigio, but he is talking about
Chardonnay?
He is talking about why Italy is still well suited to make white wines in this next clip.
Yes, I have a good comments because I think that that we the Italian culture start first on the red variety to make great wine, and when all the world, Italian world, realized that they can make super good wine and challenge with all the world. So they were very focused, everybody on the red. So let's do the best red, okay, yes. So everybody online to make the best. After they say, okay, but we can also make the good white wine. So now we have the second marathon that everybody wants to make the best white wine. So let's say that was a culture starting first on the red, and now there is the second, like immediate culture that say also yes, but we can also make a beautiful white wine, not just a red wine. So let's say that it was like less culture, and now today more culture to create a great white wine. What we have a climate condition, position, and soil that is much better than. So we are spoiled from what we have in Italy in so many beautiful places. So after is just passion. So not shortcut, because with the people that do everything properly in a very good way at top quality, usually they're gonna have fantastic result and fantastic wine. But we need time, we need calm, we need passion. And today everything is so fast, no? So it's complicated, no? In one hand you have Instagram that you want to do everything in one, like 2 seconds and 3 seconds, and then in the other way you have to wait a couple of years to make a good wine. So.
But it seems to be the local white varieties that's really doing great, even if some of them are blended with Chardonnay. But it seems to be the local ones that get the zesty, brilliant freshness and.
In Tuscany, we start now to have a very fantastic. I mean, Trebbiano d'Abruzzo is already quite famous. In Abruzzo, we don't talk so much about wine, but in this case, Trebbiano d'Abruzzo, with some small producer that make fantastic job. People talking about the white Trebbiano d'Abruzzo, perhaps, and other variety that's coming up so well.
We're also seeing a shift in people, and I don't know if you're seeing it as well here or in sales. We're seeing a shift where people want to drink more white wine. So is Italy also is part of the culture of finding better varietals to make whites with, part of chasing that that trend that is now going on?
It's a trend also coming from the situation that we have in terms of like the warmer condition, no? The warmer condition. So people say, okay, let's start to have more white wine because it's more fresh, because it's also more like easy to drink, no? Not easy because even in the white we can have a meditation wine. So it depends, but probably. This also came a lot from the situation that was like more warmer world, no? And also even here we can change, we drink more. I mean, where it's warm, obviously the white wine coming up on the season that spring and summer, more than winter for sure.
I listened to that clip so many times, and I heard when he said the word 3 times, I kept hearing passion, passion, passion. Did you hear the same thing? But after he makes the mention about Instagram, I realized what he's saying is patience. Yep. It takes patience, passion as well, but patience is very important.
It's one of the things that like we've really messed up as a continent. Like the whole North American notion of instant gratification, but also 24/7, right? You know, and I'm not saying that we necessarily need to roll things back, but you know, this is a bit of advice for anyone who's never been to Europe. Don't plan on doing anything on a Sunday because nothing's going to be open. And they really respect the downtime, and it's a slower pace of life, and it's relaxed. And when you take a look at the bigger picture, like the economic output, it's not like Italy, France, Spain, Portugal are really stunted on a global scale. They just have a really healthy respect for balance, and you know, like that completely makes sense in terms of the quality of the wines here.
Like don't go shopping at 12 to 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Everything's closed.
But even in terms of winemaking, I think it's something that Niagara could be, and I think it's something that Niagara is guilty of, is we have wineries that are so in a hurry to chase trends that the quality or the potential quality of the product has suffered. And I mean, how many wineries jumped on the PetNat train, you know, 5-6 years ago, and how many are left? And frankly, the quality of those wines were not great.
You know, and how many want to seem to get their money back really quickly? Yeah. So they, you know, you come out with a $90 bottle of wine right off the hop. Who's going to trust your $90 bottle if you can't put a Crognolo in the bottle for $30?
Yeah.
Right? If you can't put that kind of wine into a bottle year in, year out, then no one's going to buy your $90 bottle. I want to see an affordable bottle first before I see anything in your you know, that would be at a reserve level pricing.
Amen.
So one place that we didn't talk about, or we don't hear enough about here in Ontario, I blame the LCBO obviously, but it's Sicily. And the reason I wanted to start with Sette Ponti down our road in Tuscany is because they also have other places where they're growing grapes. One of them is Sicily, and I'm sorry, Andre. He's going to break your heart when he talks about Sicily, but he also talks about white wine, but he's going to break your heart here.
Oh no.
In Sicily, we are doing a Grillo instead of a Chardonnay, because Grillo, in that area on the Noto Valley, where we have this beautiful property, was like a historical autochthon vine for a white special variety. Maybe it was not easy to start, but we are on this project since already 10 years, and now after 10 years of beautiful work, we see that this variety for the white, even international people that before didn't know what is Grillo, today they really appreciate it a lot. So I think that Italy we can have this opportunity so big. We have so many variety that we can keep from different area, the one that come from there. So this is very interesting.
For me, when I listen to international winemakers talking about different varieties in different places, I always find that exciting, because I know this is also something we've said on this podcast many times, is I think the perception of the wine business in general is that it's this very rooted in tradition, slow-moving industry, resistant to change, where that's not the case, especially with the places who are winning. My heart is a little bit broken that he'd rather plant Grillo than Chardonnay. I'm sure he has a great reason for it.
Have you ever tried a really good Grillo?
I have not.
Oh.
But here's the thing is, I'm curious now, because if you're putting those two grapes in the same sentence, that must mean there is a bit of an overlap, because something we haven't talked about on this podcast a lot is I also love Northern Rhone wines, because Marsanne and Roussanne get treated similarly to really great Chardonnay in the vinification, typically spend time in wood, blah, 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 a certain percentage new, blah, blah, blah. You know, you get these really great, big, wide textured wines. So I'm hoping that some Grillo shows up at my house.
Let me see if I can reach out to Alberto and get us a bottle of that Grillo, because I have tried it, and it is absolutely stunning. You want to talk about something that's mouth-watering and is perfect for summer. If you think how hot Sicily can be, Grillo is the answer.
Grillo is the answer. I love that.
What I also wanted to point out there, and I remember because Christian and I did this interview together, he looked at me when the church bells started going, and I went, "No, we want that." That's, as you said, it really brings you into Italy. I have one final question for you, Andre. We're going to break some more news because Alberto is going to tell you about some of the new wines that are coming from Sette Ponti. Not just the Oreno is getting Cabernet Franc, but he's got some new wines that he wants to talk about. But I also ask him, what's the wine to drink now? And if you've been listening to him through this whole podcast, you should be able to tell me what wine he would say is his drink now wine. Do you know what he's going to say?
No.
You haven't been listening.
So we have, Sette, that is new wine because it's 100% Merlot in Sette Ponti. And making from these 7, it's called Sette because Sette means 7. And we have this 7 area where we make Merlot. And each year we choose just a little bit of 2 or 3 section of this plot that we have. And we make just this 100% Merlot. So this is a new. Another one obviously is the old vine from Vigna dell'Impero, especially now the Trebbiano White. So let's say that is already a lot. If we already, we staying obviously with our super father that is Oreno, a young father that is a Crognola. So we have 2 fathers already.
What is your favorite Sette Ponti wine? Don't give me the part that they're all your babies. Right now, what would you drink?
For tonight, with my wife, I would say Oreno 22.
Oreno.
22. A
Something young
wine. He loves it. He. If you had been listening, I know you had been, but it probably didn't clue in. He mentioned Oreno 22 about 3 or 4 times about how much he loves that wine. But it's always an aside. He's always blah, 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 Oreno 22, Oreno 22. It's hard to catch it, but I was like, oh, of course he's going to say Oreno 22.
That's too funny. I would drink Oreno any vintage if it showed up at my house. So
the 22 is absolutely beautiful. So,
well, I guess on that note, like, this has been really exciting to see, and to kind of get a glimpse at what the future of what's taking place in Bulgari and the future of Tenuta Sette Ponti is. This was like a really kind of cool coincidence that you showed up with these wines, because like these are wines that have been in this house many times, and to hear that the guy behind them is profoundly cool is just cool.
I love Alberto, so I'll see if I can get us some Grillo. Again, thank you to Alberto for doing the podcast on a hill in Tuscany. That's actually where we were, which was nice. And we had some of that Tuscan vibe come through. Hopefully you picked it up as well.
Definitely, the church bells and everything.
Andre, you want to tell them who you are?
I'm Andre Peru, at Andre Wine Review on social media, andrewinereview.ca. Support this podcast. Patreon.com/2guystalkingwine. We're still looking for a few more people to, throw their dollars into the ring. We know we got people listening to us.
At the end of the producers.
That's right. We'd certainly appreciate it to make sure that we can keep going.
And I'm Michael Pinkus of michaelpinkuswinereview.com. You can find me on social media, mostly as the Grape Guy, sometimes as Michael Pinkus. Andre, thank you for coming to Tuscany with me on this little trip.
Thank you for bringing me.
I'm going to take you again at some point, probably sooner than you think. Good night. Good night.
Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to Two Guys Talking Wine on iTunes.
Two Guys Talking Wine is produced by Adam Duran and Ken Little.